Hello again, Namaste again. This is the third workshop, and it's about self-two. But before we move into that, I want you to know that we are sharing with you the chaotic phase of creation, which precedes about everything that is created. The first step in the movement of creation is usually chaos. And that means that the energy is being transformed from one form through another and going through the first steps of a new form, which cannot be distinguished until we hit the second stage of creation, which is related to entropy. Correction, that's the third stage. The second stage is related to order. And then once a thing goes into an order and a particular object is identified based on the map or the imprint or the DNA, then that phase goes into entropy, which in essence means that once order is established, it immediately starts to go into disorder and moves back through the cycle of chaos, order, and entropy, on and on and on, through the transformations of energy in individuals, as well as in society, as well as in various forms of creation, and seemingly in the universe. It's important that we share with you this processing, and we will refer to how that all fits in together at the last workshop. In the meantime, before we launch into self-two, we will again talk to you about some practical matters. We have gotten our number for California Nonprofit Corporation. Our next moves will be to set up a PayPal account so that you can make any donation of your own choice and free will. And because you have been with us during the chaotic phase, this whole workshop will be a contribution. And the next workshop, which will be much more professionally organized and focused, will be a donation to make sure that you repeat an understanding of what we're doing. Thank you. Now, launching into self-two. As indicated before in self-one, which for some reason was foreshortened in some error between the downloading and the sharing with you on the various websites, we want you to know that self-two covers primarily the first, second, and third chakras. And these chakras move from the plant kingdom to the animal kingdom to the human kingdom and through the body, mind, and soul of the human kingdom. And it seems to be following the format set in the universal kingdom by what most people, or not most people necessarily, but many people call God. But we can see the imprint throughout creation. Now, in the Self-2 section and part of our evolution, we are trapped for the last millions of years into the power level, where everything that we seem to be involved with in terms of our interaction with each other and our interaction with the rest of the animal and plant kingdom, and the interaction that seems to occur in the outer space of the universe, it seems to be an attempt to organize the chaos into order, and has achieved this largely through the evolutionary epigenetic process. Now, in Self-2, which is easiest for us to understand, which is boxed in by all of the things that are related to the external self, the outer space self, which eventually becomes the intrapsychic space self, and so on, as it evolves again to the outside space, and so on, through level 3 until we leave the planet. Now in level 2, if you look closely, which technically we call the secondary process, you will see that the mind is forming, and the mind develops its own boundaries following the rules that we don't altogether understand. But at the same time, we know that there are various laws that govern this process. We know the E equals MC squared is an integral part of this process. We know that this formula for the circle, C equals power squared, is a form of this process. We know that various civilizations and communities follow similar patterns, principles, and rules in their development. And we know that we're all, regardless of nationality, regardless of our cultural background, regardless of our ethnic background, we all follow essentially the same blueprint to become human. Now, what we have done in most civilizations, if you follow their beginning until their downfall, you will see that they have gone through a similar cycle that we just described. The chaos, a period of order, a period of disorder, before they branch off into another area on the planet, usually having to do with territory. But now that the territory has been pretty much mapped out on the whole Earth planet, we are attempting to map out space, discover space, learn how to travel through space from one planet to another. And this is where more and more we need to understand that a whole new set of rules need to be fully understood before we can do that. No longer can we use the old rules that are related to power to transform the energy into space. Now, as we move through level 2 and form various institutions that have to do with survival and following the pleasure principle, we will find that life is supported internally and externally through the rules that govern space, of which we know a few, but not all, of which we understand some of the laws, but not all, of which we know when we contemplate and meditate at the spiritual level that space is the next level of evolution. Now that means moving through the chakra related to love. And this means understanding what the many masters and gurus and creative giants have shared with us in their sojourn on the planet Earth. And they become models for us in terms of achievement that's related to self too. So like self one was predominantly related to nurturing and covered pretty much the first decade of life, self two is related to agreement and related to achievement and related to various forms of understanding to make our lives better. And most societies and civilizations have attempted to do that through various institutions, justice institutions, political institutions, hospitals, charitable organizations, and so forth. But we fall short because we are trapped by the unconscious part of our being, the part we don't know, and playing the game of life rooted in the drama of the family, which leads us to our highest level of achievement, our highest level of individual development, which we mark by various symbols, various degrees from colleges, various awards for excellence, and various relationships that are civil and humane. And we develop the boundaries of these things to form a given culture and civilization. Now this usually is most comprehensive and develops mostly during the second decade. That is from age 10 to the 20s, when the boundaries and the formation of our identity as human beings are most sensitive. And we learn how to shape our internal self to have a more enjoyable, peaceful life. And as we achieve greater knowledge and greater understanding of the invisible forms of life, we will see more and more that it leads us to space. And that space covers everything from the beginning of the egg and the sperm to form the intrauterine beginning of life in the womb of the mother. And also, when we move to the next level of life in self one, to form the baby. And that begins when the infant draws its first breath. And this really points to where we have dropped the ball over and over again. So instead of focusing the very beginning of life of the individual baby with every opportunity for it to integrate the body, mind, and spirit, we unwittingly contribute to the separation of the body, mind, and spirit, so that we move away from the principle of oneness, which every spiritual system talks about. Our paradigm is one attempt to bring us back to that oneness concept and make it practical and real for every newborn baby to develop like the Dalai Lama. Now, if you study the whole process involved with the development of the Dalai Lama as it relates to Self 2, we will see that the whole system is geared to make him a higher being. So that what we see in the 14th Dalai Lama is the perfection through 14 generations of the Dalai Lama toward the perfection of the human being.